Sorry about that. Welcome to the Crafty Mini, our first episode of Season 1, the Goblin Bust. First of all, a big shout out to the Rev. Cheers mate for buying this for my birthday, much appreciated. Now at the start you saw the technical difficulties thing. Now that's just a placeholder for the fact that I accidentally deleted the footage of me building the miniature and just putting the initial base coat colours down. But for entertainment purposes we're going to say Sally did it, because why not? She's a shog-off and annoying, climbing all over my keyboard. Right, so first things first, we're going to go in and start doing the skin tones. So I've got the base green colour and I like to add a bit of yellow. I find that it gives a really nice transition and it's a bit different than your standard just going for like a lighter green. It gives a really nice warm hue. Okay, so the idea for this miniature was I wanted the front and that sort of foot, that forearm being the main sort of focus, and especially the face, because this miniature's got a load of character. It's a really nice piece. So as the video goes on, you'll see that while I'm adding lighter colours for highlights, this back arm in particular, I'll only really do this one highlight, and same for like the back of the shirt and things. The main focus and the detail work is going to be on the front and on the face, trying to build up layers and get that sort of skin texture. Especially with the yellow going through. You'll see later on it really does make it pop. Now things like here, like the ears, this is where I'm going to start adding a bit more yellow, getting the outlines done and just some of the little sort of bits of accent in the actual print itself. So just anything that's highlighted, you know, so anything that's going to be of prominence on the face, raised edges, things like that, and then slowly blending it into the base colour. Now the face, this is where I want as much detail as I can, so I'm going in initially with the bright yellowy green, and then you'll see later on I'll add more and more yellow, and then I start stippling it on to give the skin a texture. And again, just to reiterate, this is all about the character of this goblin. It's a very cheeky face. I'm guessing if it was like a D&D character or something, it'd be like a rogue. And then here, this forearm in particular, I really want to spend some time on. Again, like the face, building up layers. So you'll see me now, I'm adding the lighter yellow, keeping some of the recesses of the original base green. And this is so we'll get a transition in the skin from the darker sort of recesses of the muscles right the way up to the top layers that are more visible to the light. Same around the hands and the fingers. Now I've started to add a bit more yellow. And so this back arm, as I said, it's not going to be as highlighted, but I do want to get some in just on the most prominent areas, because you imagine, the idea was that this goblin's going to be walking out of like a shadow. Now this next bit, I've zoomed in a little, you're going to see me, I'm actually stippling on this next highlight layer, adding a bit more yellow into that original mixed colour. And this is just to give that texture I was on about earlier. Because you'll be surprised when you see the final product, the amount your eye will actually pick up when you look at the whole piece together. And I'm just going in anywhere that's an extreme highlight now, like around the lips here, and then you'll see it at the bottom of the mouth, the chin, nose and the cheeks especially, because they're going to be more prominent as he's got a hood on. And I'm just stippling it on, and every time you stipple, this is just another layer of texture that's added on, and it just makes the skin look a bit more realistic. And if you leave gaps in between, that's fine. It all just adds to the final piece. And again, I've added even more of that base yellow, and you'll see now I'm just doing the absolute top of the right raised parts, especially on the cheeks and the nose. Thinned it down quite a bit, so it's almost like a glazed texture. And this will actually go on top of everything now, as you can see. And it just, again, it's all just adding layers. Things like the earlobes, anywhere it's smoother skin, I'm trying to keep. I'm not stippling as much. But if you see the difference here on the actual sort of like the arms and the biceps, I'm going in because I just want to add a bit more texture because it's quite smooth on the actual cast, and it's on the raised areas, but it's not completely covering the previous layer, and sometimes it's sort of dotted and random, and this is all just going to add to the end. And you can see even there now I've got the actual base colour still coming through. And now we're onto the hood. So I've got the initial grey that I started with, and I've added a bit more of a lighter grey. And again, raised areas, any of the folds that are more prominent, I'm going to go in and again stippling, doing little scratches with the brushes, because I've always imagined it's sort of like a black leather. So again, texture, that's what I want to try and get onto this and convey onto this model. So I'm going in now. Anything that's going to be more forward facing, sort of like the angle of the face. So the opening of the hood, the little peak at the back, this one shoulder. That's where I'm adding as much as I can. And again, so another layer, adding a bit more of the lighter grey to go in again, doing all the highlighted areas. And you just want to try and again leave a bit, like the same with the skin, leave the previous layer a bit of that left and showing as every time you transition up to another lighter layer. Now you'll see there on the head, made a bit of a mistake, just rubbed it off the finger, it's fine. Inside of the hood there's a few folds that I'd missed, so I've gone in and added those, and it's really rough now with the brush and just chucking it on. And for that extreme highlight, especially around the rim of the hood, more of the light grey. Now it looks quite bright at the moment, but you'll see it dries a lot darker than the initial layer. And inside the hood there, just adding a few more. And again, these folds on the lower part of the hood, just adding an extreme highlight. But I'm going in, if you look, I'm actually sort of crossing my brush strokes, or I'm just dabbing on. I don't want it all clean and fancy. The top of this hat, it's got this seam. I'll just use the flat of the brush just to go through and just add as much as I can, highlight wise, and then again I go down the side of the hood here, just adding a bit more to it. And you'll see me crisscrossing brushes again, just adding like folds that would be in the leather. Right, pupils. Really annoying part of any miniature. On a bust not too bad, because obviously it's a larger scale than your standard sort of 28mm. But yeah, just a bit of red. So the initial eyes, I've just done the highest level of yellow I used on the skin. A dot of red, and then I'll do a small black dot after that for the pupil. So with the daggers, I started off doing a simple sort of silver with a brighter silver highlight. And I thought, well, with the character, he's like a cut purse, sneak thief, rogue type thing. So he's not going to have bright shiny daggers that are going to get him spotted at night. So I actually go in later on and put like a glaze of the dark grey I used on the hood just over it, and then I only go in with the silver to pick out the brightest points. Now this leather bandolier around his arm, just pop it a bit of brown on, give it a wash, and then highlight up with the original brown. I don't want to take too much away from his face and the skin folds on the arm. That's the bit I'm concentrating on, and the front of the hood. So this band around his arm will just be a simple leather brown, sepia wash when it's dry, go back in with the leather brown, just scratch on some highlights. Now for his under tunic, it's the dark grey mixed in with a bit of the skin green, because if you can try and keep a colour tone running through, they all tend to match up better, I find. And again, it's the same process we did with the skin and the hood. I'll add an initial highlight, add a bit more of the brighter colour, go in, highlight up, a stipple on, and add in that texture. The way his body's shaped, there's not much on the actual sort of under tunic that you'll see highlighted. And when I come to the result shots at the end, I'll do a rotation of the miniature, and you'll see that the highlight hasn't gone that far to the back. It's sort of like the front third of him, just below his forearm. Right, so onto the leather details on his wrist here. Again, so it's the initial colour, I'll put a sepia wash over it just so I can see the details and the shadows a bit more. And I go back with the initial colour and start just very gently lighting it up, 2 or 3 steps at a time. And I'm just going to pick out some of the major details. The last sort of layer, maybe the last 2 layers, depending on the edge of the highlight. Again, stipple on, scratch it on. Don't make it a clean cut sort of edge highlight, because for a miniature like this it doesn't suit it. If you're painting something like something armoured, say like a Space Marine from 40k, things like that, then yeah, a nice crisp edge highlight it works, because they've got the plates and the panels of the armour. But something a bit more organic like this, which is basically a leather vambrace with what looks like a bit of twine or rope wrapped round to keep it still, just scratch it on. Because it's a word I keep using in this video, but texture, it's all about the texture on the model. and I used the exact same technique for the medallion that he's got around his neck. Now this is the only piece that I did add. When we get to the later shots you'll see that I added a bit more on because I wanted it to shine, because it looks like it's come from under the hood and it would be something he normally has hidden. But again, just a nice simple brown around the edges, and just like the van brace, just highlight it up. Now I actually decided I wasn't happy with the skin, so I thought I'd do another highlight of the yellow, so going in with a bit more of the yellow added into the mix, and again just stepping on the very extremes. And this is just going to add another layer to the skin that will eventually be shown when you get to the end. Now I have a bit of trouble now trying to autofocus, but I want to get a shot of the face for you so you can see what it's like, and there you go, it's got a lot of character. I love this miniature. Now just to make things pop a bit more, varnish is really important, something I've only used the last sort of 2 years and actually made use of. So eyes in the mouth, gloss varnish, nice and simple. The skin I like to use a satin because it has just a slight sheen to it, as opposed to the gloss that'll pick up light. And so I just go over everything with satin there, and then the cape, the hood and the shirt, a nice simple matte varnish, make it look a bit more leathery. And this adds so much to the final piece. Like it's a step I can't believe I never used to do when I was painting before. Right now the eagle-eyed viewers will realise I've taken him off the base, because while the base was really highly detailed, because of the way I was painting him and only that front side was showing, I thought no, I'm going to use the base for something else and do a really cool project with it where the base will actually be the miniature. You'll see that in a later video. So I found this old Revel paint pot. It's got a really nice shape to it and it'll make a nice pedestal, so I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to attach him, and then what I'm going to use to texture it, because it's a really nice shape and it works well. It's a good size for this bust. So I'm just having a look around on my desk, things I can use, get some rocks, because I've got a box of rocks from the garden, chuck them in, fill it up with some Wilco wall filler, which, top tip, that is as good as any textured paste you can buy. I use it on the bases for all of my armies and things, which I'll show off in a later video, and it just adds a ton of texture, and it's just like dirt when it dries. The only problem is it does take a bit longer to dry. But I'll just stipple it all over now, just going to give texture to this. This is basically the paint pot. Now this will get a simple black base coat, a couple of dry brushes with a lighter grey, because I want to obviously show off that texture that's on the base, but I don't want to take anything away from the goblin. And then it's simply onto the glamour shots after that. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you again for the next part of season 1, and thanks for watching. Cheers, bye bye.